Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Alright, and welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and I am your host, Jesse Tapia. Alright, so it is Wednesday, it is April 25th, it is a very sunny day out here, actually a little bit too hot. I can't stand the heat, to be honest. I'm just letting you guys know right now. I mean, I don't understand how I was going from the 70s last week, and we're talking about Sacramento weather, if you haven't noticed or whatever, but yeah, 70s last week, feels nice, a little breeze, and then this week it's like 90 degrees, I feel. Alright, I don't like it. I'd rather just the weather here in California just stay 70s with a little breeze, and we'd all be happy, but no, sometimes we gotta go out to the 90s, so there's that. One thing I never really understood, too, I guess I kind of do understand it, but you'll see, like, NFL games and stuff like, oh, yeah, they're playing in 90-degree weather. I mean, this is almost unplayable and stuff like that. It's just like, I don't know. 90-degree weather isn't that bad. When it's 90 in the middle of summer out here in Sacramento or wherever you're from, I mean, that's like 70s and breezy during the middle of the summer. You're just hoping it's not getting to 100, 105, which is just ridiculous how it gets even that hot. All right, I can't stand it. The heat makes me ridiculously tired. But nonetheless, we're here. And I guess it's a nice little counter to, I mean, people in New York. Like, a couple weeks ago, I feel like they were in a blizzard. A couple weeks ago, I was driving on the freeway with my window down. Alright. It's a little give and take there. So I guess I'll take the 90-degree heat rather than living in a blizzard. I don't even think I could ever live in the cold. 60 degrees is probably as cold as it could get for me. But, yeah. That's my take on weather. Alright. So here it is. Last show we did was on Monday. We had the Timberwolves and Rockets, and then the Thunder and Jazz playing that night. We're going to be talking about those two games for the first segment, get those out the way. Second segment, we get Philly closing out their series with Miami. That is now concluded. We'll be talking about that game for the second segment. Third segment, we had Milwaukee and Boston, and then Golden State, San Antonio playing again, also on Tuesday. So we'll be talking about those for the third, and then for the fourth segment, we're going to talk about the games going on tonight, make some picks for those, and then let's see what else. Pretty much talk about anything else going on in the world of basketball. So it's going to be a fun show. You're going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. Maybe we'll talk some more about weather in that fourth segment. Who knows? All right, who knows? But nonetheless, let's get into it. All right, so like I said, Rockets, Timberwolves on Monday. This game was close for the most part. Not for the most part, actually, for the first half. So, I mean, I guess actually we'll get into it after I read the stats. So we had the Rockets facing off with the Timberwolves in Minnesota, Game 4. Rockets ended up winning this one 119-100. For the Rockets, you had Trevor Ariza with 15 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, shot 4 of 10, 3 of 8 from the three-point line. Clint Capella had 14 points, 17 rebounds, 4 blocks, shot 6 of 11. Very great numbers from your center. Chris Paul had 25 points, 5 steals, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, shot 9 of 17 from the field, 3 of 5 from the three-point line. James Harden in this one started out the game, I believe, all right, don't quote me on it, but I believe he started out 0 of 7. Ends up finishing 12 of 26 from the field, 5 of 11 from the three-point line, had 36 points, 4 steals, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. Obviously, those are pretty good numbers, if I say so myself. And we had Eric Gordon with 18 points, 2 assists, 1 rebound, shot 6 of 14 from the field, 4 of 10 from the three-point line. Other than that, no one else really did too much off the bench. You had Gerald Green, who was 0 of 3 from the field, had 2 points, though. 2 of 2 from the free throw line, had 4 rebounds there. All right. For the Timberwolves, Taj Gibson played 20 minutes, only took one shot, hit it, had 2 points, 3 rebounds. Andrew Wiggins, not very efficient in this one, 5 of 14 from the field, 1 of 5 from the three-point line, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Not great. It was a minus 30, and I think, yes, that was a team worse. Karl Anthony Towns got 15 shots up in this one, made 9 of them. Let's see, he had 22 points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists. Jeff Teague struggled, 1 of 7 from the field, only 2 points, 5 assists. Jimmy Butler, 7 of 17 from the field, 1 of 4 from the three-point line, had 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 19 points. And then off of the bench, you had Bjelica with 7 points, 3 rebounds, shot 2 of 4. Jamal Crawford had 10 points, 4 assists, 3 steals, shot 4 of 10. And then Derrick Rose, who was the best player for the Timberwolves in this game, I feel, had 17 points, 7 of 11 shooting, 2 of 2 from the three-point line, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Was a plus 6. All right. I mean, this game was one that, like I said, it was close after the first half. Or up until the end of the first half, I should say. Okay. Houston was up by 1. Things were looking good. I think it was, 50 to 49, I think it was. Yeah, things are looking good. Derrick Rose is playing well, and you're thinking, you know what? Derrick Rose is playing like a monster. He's going to pretty much, there's going to be a big boost to the Timberwolves, and they're going to end up winning this game. At least that's the impression I was under. All right, because I think Derrick Rose was playing like Chicago Bulls MVP Derrick Rose. I was very excited watching him play. All right. I think there was one where he didn't get the steal, but he ends up getting the outlet pass, ends up driving it down. I can't remember who was there waiting at the rim for him, but he ends up doing a nice little Euro step around him, putting the ball in the hoop, which was just like vintage Derrick Rose there. And it's kind of sad to say. We're already saying vintage Derrick Rose. I mean, the dude's no more than 30 years old, I feel, already. So, I don't know, but either way, Derrick Rose is playing well. He's playing well in the first half, and you figured, yeah, there's going to be a big momentum boost to the Timberwolves. And sure enough, when the third quarter comes, they give up 50 points to the Rockets. All right, it was absolutely ridiculous what the Rockets did to the Timberwolves in that third quarter. I mean, they couldn't miss. They couldn't miss. The Rockets could not miss whatsoever. All right, like I said, it was just disgusting. And I wonder if I could find their little third quarter stats. That'd be a little bit tough, but nonetheless. I mean, Harden wasn't missing. Paul wasn't missing. No one was missing. I even think they hit a buzzer beater at the very end of the third quarter just to top it all off. And that's where the game ended right there. It was in that third quarter. Because like I said, I mean, you had the Timberwolves were only down by a point, 50 to 49 after the first half. It's looking like they could pull this one out if it's close enough at the end. The series would be 2-2, and just sure enough, it's just, I'm not sure really. I don't know. All right, that third quarter, though, was something else, okay? It was just absolutely, I mean, the Timberwolves had no answer, and it's not even like they were playing terrible defense or anything like that. It's just like they were that good, the Rockets. All right, I mean, I don't understand how maybe you would hope to limit that. All right, let me see if I can find the third quarter stats anywhere here. I'm looking at the shot chart, but it's not really helping me out here. Let me see. We'll put it nicely. I mean, they had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 misses. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9 misses in that third quarter. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 makes. All right. And that's not counting the free throws. And again, I'm just going off the shot chart here, so I'm probably wrong about it a little bit. I'm just estimating here. But nonetheless, I mean, Rockets end up blowing them out in the third quarter. Timberwolves, I mean, in the fourth quarter played about as well as you could, I guess. I mean, they outscored the Rockets 31-19 in the fourth, but I mean, it didn't really matter. Would have had to have outscored them 50-19 in order for it to make a difference. So, I mean, as far as the Timberwolves go, they play tonight. All right, they're playing in Houston. It's not looking good. I'm not sure who my pick is. I think I'd have to go with the Rockets as my pick. I mean, on the sake of being right here, I mean, picking the Timberwolves, I guess, is nice, but it's like, in reality, we know who's winning tonight, right? I think so. So we'll see, but I don't know. With the Timberwolves, I mean, I don't know. Timberwolves have just been a very weird team. Maybe next year they get better, but it's just a matter of, they played about as poorly as you could in that third quarter. Well, not even that, not poorly as you could. It's not phrasing it right, but nonetheless, you would have expected maybe, I don't know, it's just one of those things where I guess you just tip your hat off to the Rockets, and that's all it is there. So we'll leave it at that. Let's talk about the other game from Monday, Jazz and Thunder. Series might be over. Jazz ended up winning that game 113-96. They're now up 3-1 in the series. Let's not forget that I picked the Jazz to win in 5, so if I get that right, then I will pick your lotto numbers, no problem. But I would like a 10% fee of whatever you win, so there's that. But anyway, for the Thunder in this game, you had Carmelo Anthony, who finished the game 5 of 18 from the field, 0 of 6 from the three-point line, 6 rebounds, 11 points, was a minus 18. Corey Brewer, only had 3 points in this one. Paul George had 32 points, 6 turnovers, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 9 of 21 from the field, 2 of 9 from the three-point line. Russell Westbrook had 23 points, 5 turnovers, 5 fouls, 14 rebounds, only 3 assists, shot 7 of 18. And one thing that was talked about, too, for this game was the fact that Russell Westbrook was trying way too hard to go at Ricky Rubio, trying to stop him. All right? And I think he let that get the best of him, and that hurt his team in the long run. But nonetheless, I don't know. Russell Westbrook is a very odd player. Abrines had 10 points in this one off the bench, 3 rebounds, and no one else really did anything for the Thunder off the bench. You had Grant with 6 points. Everyone else pretty much put up a goose egg. And then for the Jazz, you had Derek Favors with 13 points, 2 blocks, 4 rebounds, shot 6 of 9. Joe Ingles had 20 points, 4 assists, shot 6 of 12 from the field, 5 of 11 from the three-point line. All right, let's see. Rudy Gobert had 16 points, 10 rebounds, shot 7 of 11. Ricky Rubio wasn't as good as he's been in the series so far, but he was all right. Had 13 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. Was a plus 22 in this one. Did have 4 turnovers, though. Donovan Mitchell had 33 points, 4 assists, 7 rebounds. Shot 13 of 28 from the field, 3 of 8 from the three-point line. That's nearly 50%. Jesse does math. Jay Crowder had 6 points, 3 assists, 3 steals, 7 rebounds, 2 of 10 shooting. Got into it Carmelo Anthony towards the end of the game, I think we could say. I couldn't remember exactly when it happened, but nonetheless, him and Melo got into it. And it's always funny. You see Jay Crowder walking over towards the corner of the crowd, not making any faces and stuff. It's like, dude, smile, all right? Or do something. Don't just stand there like, oh. Just no facial expression whatsoever. It was just weird to me. Royce O'Neal had 10 points off the bench and then 9 rebounds there. Series is over, all right? They're not coming back, the Thunder. They're not. There's no way in the world, okay? There's not. With the way they've just been a bad team, and that it is what it is there. All right, Melo, Westbrook, and George. Everyone should have knew from the start that this wasn't going to work. Okay, Melo is washed out. Paul George just needs to go to a team where he's not with Russell Westbrook. And Russell Westbrook, it's Russell Westbrook. He's never going to change the way he plays. The Thunder are never going to win a title. It's just maybe the Thunder have hit their peak here as far as great as they've been. Going from when they first started out with Harden, KD, and Westbrook to the team they got now. Do we ever see this team getting any better? With Westbrook there? And the moment Westbrook leaves means the team that they've had is gone because of the fact that Westbrook's been there for so long. All right. But I just feel like this team has hit their peak. And it might be, I don't know, it's not time to, I don't know, Russell Westbrook is a very odd player to build around. All right. It just hasn't worked out. So we'll see about it. But like I said, I got the Jazz in 5, so you know my pick for tonight. But we're going to wrap it up there. Next up, we're going to be talking about Philly's game yesterday with Miami. This series, actually, more so than just the game itself. And pretty much talk about it, Philly as a whole in the East. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC basketball podcast. First segment, we talked about Monday's games. It was just Houston versus Minnesota and Oklahoma City versus Utah. Both Utah and Houston are up 3-1 in their series, so we'll see if they're able to finish it out tonight. All right, we also talked a bit about the weather in that first segment, too, for the first couple of minutes. That's what we do on this podcast. We talk about everything, all right? So nonetheless, we did that, and now we're going to be talking solely about Philly and Miami series in this segment, along with just Philly as a whole, just Philly as a team, all right? So let's do that. Going into the playoffs, I mean, Philly, was regarded as one of the better teams in the East, yes? Yeah, I think so. All right, and then going into the series, I mean, I did, knowing that, pick Miami to win in 6. And I'm sure you all remember. And I was wrong. Philly ended up winning this series in 5. Clinched it yesterday. They ended up beating Miami 104-91. All right. For Miami, you had James Johnson, who had 4 points, 2 blocks, 5 steals, 5 rebounds, shot 2 of 5. Josh Richardson only played 7 minutes in this one. Let's see. Hassan Whiteside had 2 points, was a minus 14, 5 rebounds, 0 of 4 from the field, 2 of 4 from the free throw line in 10 minutes of play. And I think that this is the end of the Hassan Whiteside era in Miami. It was a very short-lived one. It was one that had a few good moments and looked like it could be one of those long-lasting marriages, but I don't know. It's on its limbs right now. I'm not really sure if... I think they got to trade him, right? There's no way that Hassan Whiteside sticks with his team after his playoff performance is pretty much just him speaking out. They got to get rid of him, right? I mean, I feel you do. I feel like, how do you say? Yeah, Bam Adebayo is probably the center of the future for that team, so you'd rather just go with a guy like that rather than the guy you got to pay all that money to. And there are options for Hassan Whiteside outside of the Heat. It's not just one of those things where there's nowhere for him to go. He would be a solid player on Milwaukee, I feel, but they do got Thon Maker. And with the way Thon Maker has played so far in the playoffs, maybe there's a bigger role for him next season. But just as far as Hassan Whiteside in the series goes, I mean, the dude was just downright terrible. There's no other way to explain it. He just couldn't get anything going. All right. But anyway, you had Goran Dragic with 15 points, 5 turnovers, 5 assists, shot 6 of 16 from the field, 2 of 6 from the three-point line. Tyler Johnson had 16 points, ended up fouling out in this one, had 1 rebound, 1 assist, shot 7 of 11 from the field, 2 of 4 from the three-point line. Kelly Olynyk had 18 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, shot 7 of 16 from the field, 1 of 7 from the three-point line there. I feel like Kelly Olynyk, too, was maybe Miami's best player of the series, just given how he played throughout. And, I mean, it was very hard to find someone on this team who really played great throughout each game. But nonetheless, I feel like Kelly Olynyk was one of the constants on this team as far as the series goes, as far as giving decent performances. Justice Winslow had 12 points, 7 rebounds, shot 3 of 9 from the field, 2 of 6 from the three-point line. Bam Adebayo played 16 minutes in this one, was 2 of 2 from the field, 4 points, 4 rebounds. And then you had Dwayne Wade, 11 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 4 of 15 from the field, 0 of 2 from the three-point line. And now it's just a matter of, is this it? Is Dwayne Wade going to retire? All right. I say... I don't know. I feel like Dwayne Wade, he's back in Miami, okay? And maybe this is the best time for him to go out, but I feel like maybe there is a spot for him on this team as like one of those veteran mentors. All right? Just a guy you can keep on your bench because like Dwayne Wade, we know, is still productive. He's not like washed, okay? Like comparing him to Carmelo Anthony, who I think Carmelo Anthony is washed. If I had to pick one to bring onto my team, I'd pick Dwayne Wade. Okay? And Dwayne Wade just brings something that Melo wouldn't. And I hate to bring Melo into every conversation, but he's just kind of like they're both at these points in their careers. All right, both came into the 2003 draft, so that's why I'm comparing them. But nonetheless, I mean, I do feel like there is a role for Dwayne Wade within this Heat team as far as a guy who could come off the bench and just be, like I said, just that mentor. Because, like I said, he's not done. I don't think he's found his new role in his career, and I think that's one thing, too, I think Melo should do is pretty much go the Dwayne Wade route and figure, you know what, I'm not as great as I was. Okay, because I'm not saying Melo was like a bad NBA player or anything like that. He's one of the better scorers, is the best scorer probably out of that 2003 draft. But nonetheless, maybe Melo just needs to realize that, hey, I'm at a point in my career where I can't do what I used to do. Maybe come off the bench, possibly. I don't know. But like, I think Dwayne Wade, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he retired, but I do think that he could find a nice little role with his team. Kind of like what Udonis Haslem, except you do play. All right, so we'll see about that. And then for the 76ers in this game, you had Dario Saric, who had 8 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 2 of 9 from the field, 0 of 5 from the three-point line. Robert Covington had 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 4 of 10. Joel Embiid had 19 points, 12 rebounds, shot 8 of 14. Ben Simmons had 14 points, 2 steals, 6 assists, 10 rebounds, shot 4 of 10 from the field. JJ Redick had 27 points, 2 assists, shot 6 of 13, 5 of 10 from the three-point line. Aaron Ilyasova had 5 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. And then you had Marco Bellinelli with 11 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 4 of 12 there. Like I said, Philly ended up closing out the series in 5 games, won this one 104-91. And I mean, it seems like to me, like the series, like watching the games and all that, it was closer than what it says, but I just think that I might be deceiving myself here. Philly was just that good. All right, for every game except for, what was it, game 2 or game, I think there was a close game that Philly won. I think it was game 3? I think it was game 3. It was the close game that Philly won. And other than that, I mean, all the rest were blowouts. And I consider a blowout like losing by 10 plus or anything, or something like that too, by the way. I'm not just saying, oh yeah, like they lost by like 30 each game or whatever. But nonetheless, I mean, Philly dominated. Like, not dominated, but they were the better team in this series throughout. Okay. Pretty much made Hassan Whiteside invisible, and Hassan Whiteside did do that to himself a bit. But nonetheless, I mean, is Philly the best team in the East right now? I feel like is the question that we need to ask ourselves. And let's go through it, okay? Top to bottom. Toronto, have they played well? Yes. Have they really impressed? No. They haven't looked great. I mean, they played all right. So I wouldn't really put them as the best team so far in the East in the playoffs as far as how each team has played so far. Boston, I think that they are they're probably the second, as far as how teams have played, probably the second best team in the East right now. And with Toronto, I just might be severely underestimating them, but it's just like, I don't really think I've seen much of a change from Kyle Lowry in the playoffs. And the series is at 2-2 right now, so I mean, it very well could end up with the Wizards taking that one. All right. Then you get Philly at the 3 spot, who I think, yes, are the best team in the East right now, and who probably are the favorites to come out the East. All right. Then you got the Cavs, where, I mean, if you've really been paying attention to the Cavs look bad. They've played poorly. LeBron James is really the only reason why it's 2-2 right now. LeBron James isn't putting up the performances that he has so far. This team would have got swept. All right. That's literally what it is. This team would have got swept if, let's say, LeBron James scores about 7 less points in each of those 2 games where they got the wins. And that is just ridiculous to think about. Okay? You take away 7 points from LeBron's 46. That gives him 39. Still not good enough. Okay? Scored 32 in game 4, I think it was. Let's say he scores 25. They lose. All right, so the Cavs have not looked good at all. With the Bucks, they've been kind of off and on, and we're going to talk about them a bit in the next segment, but it's just with the Bucks, they haven't really been consistent in their performances, all right? First 2 games look terrible. Next 2 games look great. Game 5 don't really look too good there. So I wouldn't put them up there. And then you got the Heat who got bounced, so they're not really a conversation to be had there. And then you got the Wizards, where if the Wizards maybe won one of the first 2 games, then yeah, you could say that they've been maybe better than, no. They'd be number 2. All right, so yes, Philly is the team to be in the East, and it's going to be very interesting to see because they probably are going to be playing, or they will be playing the winner of Boston or Milwaukee. I'm thinking Boston comes out of that series because of the fact that I've been saying that whoever won Game 5 would win the series, so that'd be Boston there. And I'd be very curious to see how this Philly team would go up against this Boston team, all right? Because on this Boston team, you do have guys who have been in the playoffs the last couple of years. All right, Philly does have the better team, but it's just a matter of, I don't know, I feel like I've been putting a big emphasis on coaching so far in the playoffs. And I feel like that's been a theme too. So I feel like Philly against Boston would be a 7-game series possibly, and even Philly against Milwaukee, that could go 6 there, even possibly 7, because Milwaukee isn't a pushover there. So actually, we're going to talk about Milwaukee and Boston more in the next segment, so we're just going to do that. But as far as Philly goes, I mean, they're looking very good. Cleveland's vulnerable. And I do think that if Cleveland ends up losing in the first round to Indiana, I do think that the winner out of the Philly and Boston or Milwaukee series will come out of the East. All right, that's going to be my little hot take prediction right there. Winner of that series, if Cleveland ends up losing in the first round, will come out of the East. So we'll see, but we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about the other 2 games from Tuesday, which was Boston and Milwaukee, and then Golden State and San Antonio. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So far today, what have we talked about? We've talked about Philly, and we talked about Monday's NBA playoff games that consisted of Houston versus Minnesota and Oklahoma City versus Utah. All right, Philly ended up closing out their series. Utah and Houston have a chance to close out theirs tonight. We'll talk more about those games in the 4th segment. But nonetheless, okay, for this one, we're going to be talking about the other two games from yesterday. We had, Milwaukee versus Boston and Golden State versus San Antonio. All right, so let's do that. So with Milwaukee and Boston, we've had a bit of a up and down series, meaning, one team looks great, the other team looks better the next couple of games. All right, Boston jumped out to a 2-0 series lead. Milwaukee jumped out to a after that, ended up tying the series up 2-2, and I figured that whoever won Game 5, which is my prediction, whoever wins Game 5 is going to end up winning the series. All right, and we had Game 5 yesterday, so let's recap that. Okay. Boston ended up winning 92-87. For the Bucks, you had Giannis Antetokounmpo with 16 points, 9 assists, 10 rebounds, had 2 steals, 2 blocks also. was a -2 in this one. Shot 5 of 10 from the field there. Chris Middleton had 23 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 9 of 21 from the field, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. That guy's been a monster all series long, too. I mean, he shot only 9 of 21 from the field yesterday, but if you were watching the game, he looked better than what the box score shows. Chris Middleton, I feel, is the forgotten man on the Bucks. I think he needs a whole lot more praise on that team. And I understand a lot of it, like all of it's going to go to Antetokounmpo, and he is without a doubt the best player on that team. But it's just what Middleton does for that team. I mean, they wouldn't even have had the ability to go to a Game 5 if not for Middleton in this series. All right. And then you had Bledsoe, who has just pretty much struggled all playoffs long. He shot 5 of 15 from the field, 2 of 5 from the three-point line, had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, did have 3 steals and 16 points. Malcolm Brogdon played 19 minutes in this one, had 2 points, 3 assists, shot 1 of 5 from the field. Off the bench, you had Jabari Parker with 17 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 7 of 15, 2 of 7 from the three-point line. Thon Maker was hot in Game 3, was okay in Game 4. This game only had 2 points, fouled out, 2 rebounds, shot 1 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from the three-point line. Shabazz Muhammad had 11 points, 1 steal, 3 rebounds in 10 minutes, shot 4 of 9, 2 of 3 from the three-point line. In those 10 minutes he played, I mean, the dude was a little bit of a game changer, all right? Kept the Bucks, not kept them in it because they were in it throughout, but just pretty much gave him that little momentum boost, I guess you could say, with his minutes off the bench. All right, and then like I said, Giannis only had 16 points in this one, okay? And that was due in large part to Semi Ojeleye starting in Game 5. And this is one thing I love about Brad Stevens as far as watching him coach. And yes, I say watching him coach because of the fact that I enjoy watching Stevens coach because of the fact that you always just try and see, like, if one guy's playing extremely well, you're going to see what Stevens does to try and combat that. He's always just trying out different things. And a key example of that is putting Semi Ojeleye in the starting lineup, having him go out and guard a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay, you saw the stats for themselves. All right, Giannis only had 16 points on 10 shots. All right, and that is good, but so far in the series, we've seen Giannis go out and take about 15, 20 shots a game, pretty much be dominant. Okay, this one, you had Semi Ojeleye, who is built bigger, meaning dude's a whole way muscular than anyone on the Celtics. Could be a defensive end in the NFL if he wanted to be, I feel. But nonetheless, you have him being a little bit more physical with Giannis, closing up the lanes a little bit more, and you have him more help defense as to it's not really like a true double team on Giannis, but it's more so you see him moving towards the paint, you're going to have that other guy, whoever's near him, pretty much go out and clog that little part of it. So you have Giannis more so passing the ball off rather than going out and trying to get shots for his own. All right, and like I said, Semi Ojeleye did a great job here, had 5 points, 7 rebounds, shot 1 of 3 from the three-point line there. All right, and then you had Al Horford, where turns out you get him very involved in the offensive game plan, your team is going to play well. He had 22 points, did have 2 blocks, 3 assists, 14 rebounds, shot 7 of 15 from the field, 2 of 5 from the three-point line, 6 of 10 from the free throw line. Jason Tatum has really struggled, I think, since game 3. All right, Game 3 is when he started struggling. Games 1 and 2 he played well, but yeah, since Game 3 just really hasn't played well. Had 8 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 2 of 7 from the field, 1 of 3 from the three-point line. Taylor Rozier is also a guy who struggled since Game 3, but Game 5, I think he picked it up a bit more, shot 40% from the field, 4 of 10 from the field, 2 of 6 from the three-point line, had 16 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, so I mean, that's pretty decent there. And then Jaylen Brown was okay in this one, 5 of 13 from the field, 3 of 8 from the three-point line. I will say this about Jaylen Brown in yesterday's game. He did hit shots when he needed to. I'll say that. All right. And I think he did have a team high plus 10 as far as the plus minus goes. Had 14 points. Like I said, 6 rebounds there. All right. And then off the bench, you had Marcus Morris with 10 points, 2 assists, 8 rebounds, shot 4 of 10, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. And then the return of Marcus Smart after 19 games was a big one. Not as far as points go. I mean, he shot 2 of 7 from the field, 9 points in this one. And he was a +2, had 4 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 5 rebounds. Okay. And Marcus Smart, when you don't watch the game and you just check the box score, he's not really going to be a guy that jumps out there. Okay. He's not going to be a guy where you're like, oh yeah, this guy really is a difference maker. You have to watch more so rather than just check the box score in order to know what exactly he does for this team. All right. Because they were putting him on Chris Middleton, and I feel that Chris Middleton even win Marcus Light, because Marcus Smart was guarding pretty much everyone well, and this goes back to my praise with Chris Middleton. I mean, Marcus Smart was right in the dude's face, and it just simply did not matter at all. All right. Chris Middleton was hitting shot after shot, but as far as Marcus Smart on guys like Tony Snell, and I feel like Tony Snell, I mean, that's not really helping my argument, because Tony Snell's just been bad for this whole series. Put him on guys like that. Brogdon, Bledsoe, okay, was on Parker a few times, I feel. Smart did well. All right. I mean, you saw instant impact as soon as he came in, had his steal. There was one where he ended up, I think it was the one where he dove to the ground to get it. Stole one from Giannis, and then he blocked Giannis too on an alley-oop attempt. You see Giannis go up, and I don't know how Marcus Smart got that high, because Giannis is like 6'10", and plus he's got a pretty nice vertical there, but nonetheless, I mean, you had Marcus Smart block it there. And it was a big difference too. I mean, both teams started out kind of flat, and then you throw Marcus Smart up to the scorer's table or whatever, ready to come in, and you hear the rumbling of the fans. You hear everyone getting excited. As soon as they announce his name, everyone erupts. All right? He made a difference, and this is what I was expecting too with Marcus Smart coming back, was to make that difference. I mean, he had a play at the end of the game where he dives to the ground, or he's dribbling in, the ball gets loose, he dives to the ground, grabs the ball, and he's got all kinds of Bucks players on him, ends up getting the ball out to Al Horford from the ground, mind you, and Al Horford ends up dunking it. And that's pretty much the dagger right there. So with the Celtics, I mean, I do think that they're probably going to end up winning Game 6. If not, they'll probably get it done in 7, because I am sticking to my whoever won Game 5 would win the series. So I was the Celtics, so we'll see. And it's going to be very interesting to see whether it is the Celtics or the Bucks, how these teams play against the Sixers. All right. But nonetheless, there was that. And as far as the Bucks go, I mean, they played about as poor as you could, but nonetheless only lost by 5. So maybe Giannis maybe gets a little bit more aggressive in Game 6. They have a chance to push it to a Game 7, but that's pretty much it right there, all right? Play it one game at a time. You win Game 6, boom, you're ready to go still for Game 7. Anything could happen in Game 7, no matter even if it is in Boston, so we'll see. But anyways, that's not the only game we had going on. We had the Warriors facing off with the Spurs. Warriors had a chance to close out the series in Oracle, and they did. They ended up winning 99-91 for the Spurs. You had LaMarcus Aldridge with 30 points, 4 assists, 12 rebounds, shot 8 of 18. Rudy Gay had 9 points, 4 rebounds, shot 4 of 15. Patty Mills had 18 points in this one, 5 rebounds, shot 7 of 15, 4 of 10 from the three-point line. Dejounte Murray had 6 points, 8 rebounds, shot 2 of 6. And then off the bench, you had Kyle Anderson with 10 points, 3 steals, 4 rebounds, shot 5 of 5. And then you had Manu Ginobili in what could be his last game as a San Antonio Spur with 10 points, 7 assists, shot 3 of 7, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. For the Warriors, you had Draymond Green with 17 points, 19 rebounds, 7 assists. Dude's a monster. Shot 5 of 11 from the field, 2 of 7 from the three-point line. All right. And I think after the game, Draymond Green got asked about Chris Webber's comments, and I think Chris Webber, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of Draymond Green wouldn't be a starter on every team in the league, and no, he would, Chris Webber. Draymond Green definitely could start for every team in this league. There's not too many players like Draymond Green, and I'd go as far as saying that Draymond Green is a top 20 player in this league, so I don't know, but nonetheless, I mean, everyone's got their opinion. Kevin Durant had 25 points. Didn't really shoot the ball too well from 3. Was 1 of 8 from the field there, or from the 3-point line, but was 8 of 19 from the field. So it wasn't just necessarily too bad. If anything, if you think about it, he was just 7 of 11 from 2-point land or whatever you want to call it. But he had 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Klay Thompson, who's been pretty good in this, well, very good in this series. Don't want to shortchange him. He had 24 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 11 of 22 from the field, 1 of 5 from the 3-point line. Kevin Looney had 8 points off the bench, 3 rebounds, and you had Sean Livingston with 8 points also, shot 4 of 7 from the field there. I mean, I picked the Warriors in 6. I'm surprised it even went this far with given how the teams played. All right, so I was wrong as far as how long I had the series lasting, but nonetheless, I mean, like I said, this could be the last game for Manu Ginobili, and this could be the last game of the Spurs dynasty. All right, I mean, Manu's going to be gone, Kawhi could be gone. I mean, what is Greg Popovich going to have to work with? Who knows? All right, and as far as the Warriors go, they got to get ready for this Pelicans matchup. All right, I really hope that the Warriors aren't going into this series pretty much thinking, oh yeah, it's the Pelicans, we'll be fine. Because this Pelicans team, I did say that the Philly has been the team who's played the best in the East, but as far as the best team in the playoffs so far, it's been the Pelicans. Okay? It has. So I really hope Golden State's going into this series thinking, you know what, it's not going to be a cakewalk, it's going to be tough. Because if not, the Pelicans will sneak up on them. All right, if Steph doesn't play these first 2 games, it's going to be very important, not for the Pelicans to go up or to go 1-1, but for the Warriors to go 1-1. All right, so we'll see what ends up happening, but we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about the games for tonight. Got a couple of must-wins for a couple of teams, and like I said, just give any thoughts as far as anything else going on in the world of basketball. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So far today, we've talked Philadelphia, we've talked about the Sacramento weather, we've talked about the Celtics and Spurs, and then we talked about Monday's NBA playoff games. All right, it's been a fun show. I've enjoyed it. Maybe you have. I hope you have. I mean, it's pretty much my job, right, to make sure that you're enjoying listening to the podcast. So, hope you have. If so, rate and subscribe. All right. But nonetheless, here we are for the 4th segment. And, I mean, we got 4 games going on tonight. So you have your choice. All right. You could either watch the Cavs Pacers at 4 or the Toronto Raptors versus the Washington Wizards at 4. So you have your choice at one of those 2 games, unless you're like me, where you watch it on the TV and then stream the other on your computer. And then you have your choice at 6:30, I think, is the next game, Pacific times. Okay, we do Pacific time on this podcast too. I know a lot of the people do Eastern Standard Time, but not around here. All right. But like I said, we got Thunder Jazz at 6:30 and then Rockets and Timberwolves at 6:30. NBA playoffs are weird too because you got games going on at the same time, but nonetheless, I mean, it is what it is. So there's that. But I mean, as far as these games go, I mean, there are 2 for sure technical must-wins between the Timberwolves and Thunder. All right, they both have to win their games or else they're out. But as far as the whole quote-unquote must-win games going on tonight, that'd be Cleveland's game against Indiana and then Toronto's game against Washington. All right, and I wouldn't necessarily say that those are must-wins for Indiana or Washington because of the fact that you still have a Game 6 and you still get to go home for Game 6. All right, I'm saying they're must-wins for Cleveland and Toronto because of the fact that, I mean, let's look at Cleveland, okay? Let's start off with them. My thing with Cleveland so far in the playoffs has been they haven't played good basketball at all. Haven't looked good at all, okay? It's literally been the LeBron James show, all right? And I'm not and I think honestly this is the end between, for Cleveland. Okay, they're going to go back to being the bad team that they once were. So I really truly hope that these Cleveland fans, I wonder if Cleveland fans see it the same way I do, as far as it's not even LeBron leaving or anything like that, but just as far as how bad they've played. I mean, I feel like we've gotten stuck, and I fell for it again. Okay, I fell for it right before the playoffs started. Okay, if you've listened to the show since I've been on here, you've known that I haven't been the highest on Cleveland. Okay, not at all. Just given the way that they played. I've always said, since they've made the trade to get all those new players into Cleveland, that there was no difference from the team that they had before to the team they have now. Okay, if anything, I think that the team before was a little bit better. Okay, and it's just right before the playoffs started. I'm not sure why, but I fell into the whole, it's the team with LeBron, so they got to do something trap. and I picked them in 5. And I knew I was wrong about that right after game 1. Okay. And I apologize, Indiana fans. I hope you taking your heart to forgive me. But with Cleveland, I mean, Kevin Love hasn't played well. Larry Nance hasn't played. Yeah, the guys who got traded. Okay, Larry Nance hasn't played well. George Hill hasn't played well. Clarkson hasn't played well. Hood hasn't played well. Okay. You head over with Miami, I mean, yeah, they're out, but nonetheless, Dwayne Wade was a whole lot better than any of the 4 that I just mentioned. And even for that matter, Derrick Rose has been better than any of the 4 that I just mentioned. All right? Jay Crowder hasn't been great for the Jazz, but he's made big plays when he's needed to as far as the intangible stuff, playing defense and all that. And it's just with the Cavs, I mean, LeBron's literally got to go out and he's going to have to average at least 35 a game for this team to make it to the finals. And I'm not even sure if they end up losing tonight. All right? This is probably the biggest game for the Cavs, not counting the finals matchups. All right? Let's say as far as the first, second, and third rounds before the finals, this is the biggest game that they've had in some time. Okay? And I feel fine saying that. I don't feel like I'm overreacting here because of the fact that it's just the team has been that bad. All right? I compare him to the 07 team, and I was talking with Tate about the 07 team, and he was telling me that at least with the 07 team, yeah, you didn't have a lot of big-name players, but you had guys who knew what their job was, and they did their job. All right? That's how they made it to the finals that year. And with this team, I feel like they got their job, but they don't know how to do it, and they haven't excelled at it. All right? So with the Cavs, I mean, they end up losing here. I don't see it coming back to a Game 7 in Cleveland. I say the series ends in 6 for Indiana if Indiana ends up winning Game 5. And, like, I'm thinking about it. I'm saying that, but it's just, I don't know. LeBron is just one of those players who will probably, like, it's a rarity we see a guy like that, okay? People talk about guys like Kobe and all that, but as far as the impact that LeBron makes on this team, I mean, he's in, like, a whole category by himself as far as it all goes down, all right? I'm not a Cavs fan by any means. I'm the farthest from it. But LeBron, for me, is just the greatest player of all time. All right, and maybe I say that because of the fact that I didn't get to watch Jordan or Magic play, but nonetheless, I mean, with what this guy does, like, that's the only reason why I'm still thinking Cleveland has a chance, maybe even possibly if they lose tonight. Okay, because of the fact that LeBron could go for 50 points in Game 6 and give him another chance at life. So we'll see. But nonetheless, I do think it is a must-win tonight. And as far as Toronto and Washington go, I mean, Toronto's doing that thing where they choke in the playoffs, and they're doing it mighty early. They have to win tonight, or else I feel like just the morale in that locker room and the team as a whole is just going to be completely deflated, and it's going to be over. All right. John Wall's playing out of his mind. Not out of his mind. He's playing good. Bradley Beal's the one who's been out of his mind. All right. And it's just a matter of, I mean, the Wizards, they want to advance. They got to like each other. They got to enjoy playing basketball with each other. So we'll see about that one. So those are the 2 early games. And then for the 2 late games, we got Utah versus Oklahoma City and then Minnesota versus Houston. All right, Oklahoma City's at home in this one, so that's a little plus for them. But it's just a matter of, I mean, do we think that they have a chance? I don't know. Oklahoma City, I tried at one point during the season to maybe see the good in them, to see if they had a chance at being a good team in the playoffs. I tried. Before the playoffs started, I picked Utah in 5 in this series, and it's looking like I'll be right. I'm going to stick with Utah going tonight. I mean, Utah's got the better team. They do. Oklahoma City has about 2 very good players, 1 big name. Actually, 2 great players. 2 superstars and 1 great name. Melo at one point was a superstar, but he's just not that anymore. And it's just with Utah, I mean, you got Favors, Gobert, Ingles, Rubio, Mitchell, Crowder, O'Neal, Exum. Very good players on that team. And there's no reason for me to pick against them tonight. It hasn't even really been close in this series, except for what? Game 1, I think it was, that Oklahoma City won? So, I mean, as far as it all goes down, I mean, you got to go with the Utah tonight, right? And as far as the Thunder, I mean, what's next for this team? Like, what is their plan? Because Paul George, I'm assuming so, won't be back next season. I'm not even sure if Melo will be back, so it'll be back to square one with Russell Westbrook. What are you going to try and do this time to build around him? Okay, because nothing has worked so far. Russell Westbrook is a very great player. All right, but I think that he's a guy where you can't really build around him. And this is one thing that's been talked about too. Maybe it's just time for the Thunder to bring in a true point guard and move Russell to the 2. But I mean, in order for that to work out, you'd have to have Russell pretty much switch up his game a bit. And I don't think he's ever really been a guy that's been open to that. But I do think in order for the Thunder to look good with Russell Westbrook, they need to move him over to the 2. So we'll see if they end up doing that or just keep having him run point. All right, but this is probably the end of the Big 3 era in Oklahoma City for that year. I mean, I don't know. They're a very odd team. Bring back the Sonics. All right, and then we got Minnesota versus Houston. This one's in Houston. I don't really see Minnesota having much of a chance here. I mean, there's always next year, right? Minnesota, if Jimmy Butler doesn't end up getting hurt for that last month or two at the of the season, then chances are they're not even playing the Rockets in round 1. They're probably playing a team like maybe even Oklahoma City, Utah, or anyone for that matter, and I think that'd be a better series for them. So they did get the short end of the sticks. Like I said, for Minnesota, it's just a matter of just getting better for next year, unless they end up pulling on the win out tonight, which I highly doubt, just because of the fact that Houston's at home. So we'll see. But I mean, if I had to make my picks, I want to go Indiana, but I just really think that LeBron's going to have one of those games again, like how he did in games 2 and 4. So I mean, in my head, I want to go Indiana, but in my heart, I just really think LeBron's going to play that well. So I got to go against Indiana again. I don't feel good doing it at all. Then I got Washington winning tonight against Toronto. I got Utah beating Oklahoma City, and then Houston beating Minnesota. So there's that. So we're actually going to wrap up the show here. All right, today we talked about Philly, we've talked about Boston, Milwaukee, San Antonio, Golden State, and then we talked about Monday's games with Utah, Oklahoma City, and then Minnesota versus Houston. And then for this segment, we talked about the games going on tonight. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Jesse Tapia. We'll be back on Friday, so stay tuned till then, and we will talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.